evening, everyone, and welcome to the program. I'm Christiane Amanpour in New York. ISIS leaders are fleeing Mosul. That's according to the American military in Baghdad, 3 days into the offensive to liberate the city. But, as our Ben Wiedemann reports from the front lines, the fighting is hard enough, but there are much bigger concerns about the day after.
The victory bell has rang, and the operations to liberate Mosul have begun.
It was the Iraqi prime minister who issued the call to arms this week. But it was the Peshmerga, troops from Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdish region in the north, who made the first push. Some 40,000 of them are moving on Mosul. They've proven to be an effective ground force, driving ISIS out of Mount Sinjar and steadily pushing back the front line. The threat to Iraq's Kurds is existential. ISIS territory is just a short drive from their capital, here in Erbil. Their success has larger political implications.
I would like to reassure the people of Mosul that there is a coordination between the Peshmerga forces and the Iraqi army.
That reassurance from President Masoud Barzani is necessary because his has long been called the nation in waiting. Full independence has long been Barzani's dream. The central government in Baghdad says only Iraqi troops will enter Mosul's city center. That's the plan, but as they say, no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. Ben Wiedemann, CNN, Erbil, northern Iraq.
And joining me now from Erbil, the capital of Iraqi Kurdistan, is the President Masoud Barzani. Welcome to the program. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You have just come back from the front lines. You're talking to your commanders. How is the fight going?
Today is the third day of the first phase of the liberation of Mosul. The fighting is continuing, and up until now 300 square kilometers has been liberated, and the war is continuing.
Is it harder or easier than you thought?
This is a war. Sometimes it's easier, and sometimes it's more difficult, and sometimes it will not be as expected. But in general, there are many advances, and we have achieved many successful achievements. And the terrorists of ISIS, we managed to defeat them, but it's a fierce fighting.
What kind of resistance are you seeing? We have seen one image of a Peshmerga force being confronted by a ISIS suicide bomber. And obviously, we've also seen trenches which have been set on fire, oil trenches. How difficult is the resistance?
They depend on the car bombs mostly. And also they are burning black oil in order to make a lot of smoke, so the fighter jets cannot see them. But these did not prevent the advance of the Peshmergas. The resistance is very low, but they depend on the car bombs, the mines, and the suicide personnel. And ISIS, the people, the families are IDPs now, and they are in Kurdistan.
So tell me about why this is important for the Kurdish people. Why is this fight important for you? And what is the formation and the military responsibility of the Peshmerga? What are they meant to be doing?
The terrorists say that Mosul is the capital of the Khilafah. Mosul is 60 to 70 kilometers far from the Hook and 18 kilometers far from Erbil. And it's on the touchline with the Kurdistan region. So the existence of ISIS terrorists in Mosul is a constant threat to the Kurdistan region.
You know, there's a lot of concern about all the different forces which are fighting. What is it that you, as president of Iraqi Kurdistan, want in return for helping to liberate Mosul? Because there's a lot of talk about political activity, about territorial gains for the Kurds.
We do not want to conquer anyone's land, and the lands, the Kurdish lands are the Kurdish lands. And whenever we can attack and hit the terrorists, we will do that. And we always say that anyone who helps us against the terrorists, we thank them, and also we will help to diminish the terrorists. This is our philosophy. This is our philosophy in our war against the terrorists.
You've said that this is the first time the Peshmerga and the Iraqi forces have worked together. And there is obviously a huge concern about what happens after Mosul is liberated. So many competing forces, competing political groups, competing ethnicities and militias. Is there a plan for Mosul after the liberation?
This is true. This is the first time that the Peshmerga of Kurdistan with the Iraqi forces, they fight against one enemy, and it's a change. And the second thing is we would have loved to have a political plan along with the military plan, how to manage Mosul, how to administrate Mosul, because Mosul has a variety of religions with ethnicities. Probably it would have taken a longer time, but in order for us to continue not to face more difficulties, so we agreed with Baghdad to form a committee, a joint committee, that if there's any problem occurs, we can deal with it.
All right, you just said there was no political plan for the post-liberation of Mosul in order to govern Mosul. But there are reports that the United States believes that the former governor of Mosul will come back, the governor of the Nineveh province, where Mosul is, Mr. Aqoub, and that the place will be divided into sub-districts to be, governed by local mayors. Is that acceptable to the Kurds? Is that the plan as you know it?
I'm not aware of this kind of plan, but there must be a new form for Mosul. But the most important thing that all these people, all the components of Mosul, to be reassured of their future and not to face this crisis again. The solution is that after the liberation of Mosul, first of all, we will not, let's not allow the revenge, and we want to reassure the people of Mosul to live a prosperous life, and no one can have revenge, and also to have a common administration, either common administration or some administration divisions, in order to ensure a good future for all these components. So we have to talk about all this with the people of Mosul and also with the related parties.
Do you expect a massive exodus of civilians from Mosul during this fight? Have you seen people coming towards you, for instance? Are you prepared to host refugees, if you like, people who are fleeing the fighting now in your area of Kurdistan?
Now, the Kurdistan region, despite of this crisis, the crisis now that we are having, we have 1.8 million IDPs from Mosul and all other people. Also, 300,000 came from Syria. There are Kurds and other people as well. We cooperate fully with the federal government, with all the parties, but from now on, the international community must help us, because we cannot do more.
And finally, are you optimistic? And how do you see these next few weeks going? How long until Mosul is liberated, do you feel?
War is not a pleasant thing, but these terrorists made life very difficult for the people of our country and also for the security of Europe and the world. So this is a big fight, this is a big war. And if we can diminish these terrorists, I am optimistic that the Peshmerga, the brave Peshmergas, will do a good job. And also, I say this is a fierce fighting. This is not an easy war. But I believe in the cooperation with the Iraqi army and also with the support of the coalition forces, we will have a great victory.
How long do you think it'll take?
This is a difficult question.
We
want it to be as soon as possible, but it's difficult to set a certain time. We are continuing and we will advance, God willing.
President Masoud Barzani, thank you for joining us from Erbil tonight.
Zor spas, mish spas